Welcome horror fans, it's that time again. We have 3 stories for you today. They're all based around Let's Not Meet. Without further ado, lay back, relax and listen. Okay, this happened a few years ago, around early December. I was playing a mobile game for around 3 months prior. Sorry for the murky description, but there's a short preview of said game. It's a fantastical medieval war type game where you level up your castle to get stronger troops and build better defences. As you upgrade your buildings, it also features invading other castles after you played for more than 7 days, only because your newbie protection shield will wear off after that time. There are alliances formed with other players team up and work together on events. You can also edit your profile and change your picture. Global chat, alliance chat and private chat are easily accessible to everyone. I got into a server a month later than the others. I discovered the game from an ad and it was based off one of my favourite series. And since I played similar games before, I adjusted quickly and recruited by one of the top alliances, which was also kind of infamous for its members being a bit too friendly with female gamers. I did use my own photo in my profile, but my hair was covering half of my face and I had an anti-dusk mask on. Only my left eye was clear on that photo, and yet they still invited me in. I'm not gonna lie, I had a thought that I might run into some pesky guys, but I still accepted anyway. It was just my 3rd day playing, and I need all the resources I could get to strengthen my castle. And getting into alliances is a surefire way to get those donations early game. Besides, every alliance is bound to have their own rotten crops. Most of them were pretty okay. The leader was really helpful, and while he would tease the girls sometimes in the chat, but he would stop when we tell them or when he could sense we were being uncomfortable. There were a handful that were just straight up thirsty guys. One guy said that girls were inferior to him. Another said that he'll give in-game currency to a girl who sex chats with him. And what particularly ticked me off was the dude claiming that I was his property. Even going as far as to spam the global chat to warn other players not to flirt with me or else he will destroy them. Such sheer idiocy. He's a wallet warrior, meaning a person who buys in-app purchases. That also means free players like me can't exactly fight back at him and expect to leave a dent on his castle. The leader sent me his private message and apologised on his behalf and told me he can't exactly kick the jerk out of the castle since he was a valuable player, despite his insufferable behaviour. The most I could do was block him and hope he stays in the alliance so he wouldn't attack me. He didn't, but instead he made dummy accounts and constantly sent me private chats. I was getting pissed with repeatedly blocking his accounts, but I finally conceded to his condition. For him to stop spamming emails, that is for me to unblock his main account. For several days he didn't talk to me that much, and when he did, he was actually polite. The leader told me he must have turned a new leaf. I wasn't convinced, but I didn't shut him out. That was where it got really bad. Thinking back, I may have been a bit careless when I was talking to the other players. There were female players and I quickly bonded over and made friends. Sometimes we'd chime the alliance chat just so it would be lively in there. The conversations were random, but there were snippets where we wrote out our information, not the specifics, but I can remember saying my birth country and which school I attended. But the city, the street, the exact address I didn't spill. So it was the first week of December when a Christmas event was held in the game. By that time I was not bothered by the jerk, and we could even hold civil, albeit short, conversations. I was talking with a female player when he typed in the alliance chat. My in-game name struck, "Do you like flowers?" It was a random and sudden question, but I decided to answer, "I guess." A few seconds later his message popped up. "Then do you like surprises?" I wasn't sure where this conversation was going, but I didn't want to be rude. "Pleasant ones, yes." My friend had to go offline, so she said goodbye and sent me a virtual hug. Since we can't hug for real, it just sort of became a greeting for the girls in the alliance chat. I almost forgot about the jerk, but then he wrote, You'll be moved to tears soon. You'll see. I'll give you more than virtual hugs. I was positively weirded out by his words, so I made an excuse and logged out of the game. It was nearing school break and classes were pretty chill, so I was just chilling out in the library and having some peace and quiet, but then one of the working students, a close friend, tapped me on the shoulder, a quizzical look on his face. "Hey, did you snag yourself a boyfriend without telling me?" "What? Why would you say that?" I asked, not yet seeing the connection at that time. "There was a bouquet of flowers sent to you. It's in the department office right now." That was where it all clicked. All the random questions, that creepy endliner. He found me. He fucking found me. I was panicking so bad to the point where I had to go to the clinic and skip the rest of my classes. I didn't accept the flowers. I didn't even want to see it. When I was asked what to do with the bouquet, I told them to throw it. My username didn't even have any relation to my real name, and when I was asked for my real name, I only gave them my nickname. It really creeped me out how this jerk managed to find me. I was scared out of my wits and chatted to the leader about it. He was shocked about it too. He then sent me screenshots of their conversation of me, to which the jerk was doing most of the talking. The leader was sending clipped dismissive responses, but the jerk didn't seem to notice. He was too immersed in his fantasies, horrible thoughts that will make my skin crawl to this day. I told him I'm quitting the game and to apologise to the Alliance on my behalf. I didn't want the others to worry, so I had to make the leader tell a lie that I was getting too busy with my studies, that I had to stop playing. I don't exactly know how he tracked me down, but I spent the rest of my semester fearing for my life. I didn't go anywhere alone, heck, I rarely hung out with my friends. Fortunately, they understood after I told them the situation. I graduated with paranoia clinging to my back, but even now, I couldn't get myself back playing a game similar to the one I was. I was also extra wary of guys, especially to strangers. After that flower incident, I didn't get any more surprises for him. I hope it stays that way, and as for the jerk, let's not meet. At all. Living in an area where you could easily walk to stores was always convenient. My two older sisters and I always enjoyed walking to a restaurant about a mile from our house. Our mother trusted my oldest sister, who was around 15, to take us occasionally. One day we were eating and happily talking when we noticed a man sitting alone, staring at us. Us being young, we laughed it off and joked around about it. If the man made eye contact with me, I would just smile. Once we were done, we got up to begin walking back home. Strangely, the man also got up, too quickly. Despite arriving later than us, he was rushing to the door. As we crossed the street from a restaurant, the man begins running after us shouting. My oldest sister immediately told us to start running, and so we did. After running for a few minutes, we thought we lost him, but all of a sudden he appeared on the street, this time in his rusty white car. My heart dropped as I realised what his intentions were, despite only being 7 to 8 years old. We ran into a different street and hid behind a van. I was crying in fear, but my sister's eyes were wide in confusion of what was happening. When the coast was clear, we managed to get to our house and tell our mum what had happened. She of course was shaken up at what we had told her and wouldn't let us leave the house. As the day continued on, I was playing in the backyard where my mind was safe. I could still see a glimpse of the street from the fence and identified the same white rusty car cruising down the street alone. I ran inside and told my sister, not wanting to go outside for the rest of the day. The next day, my sister and I needed to walk to school, even after what had happened. We held hands tightly and walked with our heads down in fear of being spotted by the man. The fear continued throughout the year. We stopped walking to that restaurant and luckily, we never saw the man again. So creepy man in the white car, let's not meet. So this is a story that I've been debating sharing for a very long time. It's something that happened over several years and I feel like it's something that I need to get off my chest. At the time of this story, I was in high school. I'd begun to grow quite a following on a website called DeviantArt, and had several friends out of my watchers. At one point I decided to make a group on Google Hangouts where I'd be able to talk with my friends and watchers more often. That's when this one person started talking to me. For the sake of his story, let's call him Jackson. Jackson started off as a kind of weird, awkward guy who would rarely join the calls when we had them. Eventually he got comfortable enough to do the voice calls and quickly bonded with a lot of my online friends. As we grew close, he told us that he had autism. Looking back, that may have let us excuse a lot of red flags and toxic behaviour, as he was not the only one in the chat who had autism. The problem was, Jackson was very aggressive towards my other autistic friend. This would range from him hinting that he thought they were ugly to flat out yelling at them. If they said something he didn't agree with, there was a point he even threatened to kill my friend's cat if she didn't shut up. This caused her to stay away from the chat for weeks. Whenever we would confront him about it, he would blame it on his autism and talk about how much of a curse it was, which in turn would make us drop the subject. After a while, Jackson began to help some of us out with our comics and art projects. And by help I mean he would try and find other ways to force his ideas and characters onto us. When we would try to give him criticism or tell him that we didn't think his ideas would fit with our stories, he would lose it. We later found out that he would do this because he didn't like how some of us had a larger following than him, and he thought if he was part of our stories he would get some of the followings. It eventually became something we grew numb to as artists. Then one day when Jackson and I were in the call alone together, he confessed that he had feelings for me and asked if I could be his girlfriend. Being a teenager with low self-esteem, I said yes. The relationship didn't last long as he would constantly do things that I told him made me uncomfortable. Like if he asked if I watched porn, if I masturbated, when I thought about him, etc. At first I didn't mind it, but eventually it was all he would ever talk about with me. I would tell him I wasn't comfortable asking that and he would continue despite this. We broke up 2 months into the relationship. He still wouldn't give up though. Whenever we joined the calls now he would comment on how sexy I was or how because I was chubby that meant I was automatically adorable and would constantly compare me to other girls in the chat to make me feel terrible. Once again, whenever we would bring this up with him, he would blame it on his curse of autism. It got worse when he started debating someone who was recently joined the chat. Let's call her Lucina. Jackson and Lucina happened to live really close to each other, and after a while began to date. I was relieved as I thought this would stop him from constantly making inappropriate comments towards me. It didn't. Whenever Lucina wasn't in the call, he would continue to make sexual comments toward me. At one point I had given up trying to make him stop, and simply ignored it. Then one of my stories in particular started to get popular, and that's when I met my current boyfriend. Let's call him C. C joined the Hangouts chat and we instantly began to bond. After a few months of talking, C and I started dating, much to the dismay of Jackson. He then began to aim sexual comments towards me when C was in the call. Unlike me, C would always call Jackson out on this. Jackson continued to blame his autism for this behaviour. The final straw was when Jackson threatened to dox me, find out where I lived, and have sex with me. All while C was in the call. C and I had enough at that point, and we told Jackson that he just did what was not okay. Eventually, when he had a girlfriend, he then told us he didn't love Lucina, and that he was only dating her to make me jealous, so I would date him again. C lost it at that point and called Jackson every name under the sun, before kicking him out of the chat. No less than a couple of hours later, Lucina joins that call in tears. She tells us that Jackson had broken up with her and that he was screaming and yelling how he was going to dox me and C for kicking him out of the chat. He would say things like how he had kicked him out of school for nearly strangling a kid and that he would do it to my friend's pets. Thankfully he was bluffing and nothing ever came of his threats. After that, he tried to persuade my other friends that we had bullied him and wrongfully kicked him out of the chat. Thankfully my friends knew of his toxic behaviour and just blocked him. It's been years since I've heard anything about Jackson. One of my friends who lives near him told me how he'd been arrested for assault. I don't know if that's true or not, but I wouldn't put it past him. So Jackson, whether you're in prison or not, I hope that we never have a chance to meet.